Bob pushed the mop across the shiny floor of the alien research station, careful not to slip. The corridors were enormous, filled with strange glowing panels and alien machines that hummed and beeped. He had been assigned here as a janitor, cleaning spaces where no human had ever set foot before. The aliens hardly noticed him. Most of them were tall, multi-limbed creatures with shiny skin, bright eyes, and voices that sounded like music and static combined. They walked past him, barely glancing at the small human with his mop and bucket. "Hey Bob," called a voice that sounded like glass chimes. Bob turned and saw one of the younger alien scientists, a slender figure with pale blue skin, waving at him. "Come here. We want to play a game." Bob wiped his forehead and forced a smile. "A game?" he asked. He was used to being ignored, so being noticed by aliens, even if it was for a joke, was strange. The alien laughed, a sound like wind through metal tubes. "Yes, we want to test your DNA. Just for fun. Nothing serious." Bob blinked. "DNA? You mean, like my genes?" The alien's many fingers waved impatiently. "Yes, just a little scan. We are curious. Humans are primitive, yes? This will be amusing." Bob hesitated. He had no idea what they were talking about, but he was told not to refuse orders. So he nodded. "Okay, I guess." The alien led him to a small chamber, bright with soft lights. Strange machines lined the walls, spinning and clicking. A platform in the middle of the room glowed faintly. "Stand here," the alien said. Bob stepped onto it. The platform shifted slightly under his weight, and he felt a strange warmth on his hands. "Relax. It will be quick." While the machine hummed, Bob watched the aliens gather around, whispering and laughing. They were clearly expecting nothing unusual. One of them, taller and fancier looking, leaned over the machine. "Can you imagine if a human had special DNA?" it said, almost in a sneer. "Huh. Ridiculous." Bob looked down at his shoes. He had never thought of himself as special. He was just a janitor, a human from a small city on Earth. He had never traveled beyond his planet, never done anything that seemed remarkable. But now, here he was, in a distant alien station, surrounded by beings who considered themselves smarter than any human could ever be. The machine clicked, lights flickered, and a small panel projected a glowing blue mist over Bob's hands. He felt a slight tingle, nothing painful, just unusual. The aliens were leaning closer, their eyes wide with amusement. "It is scanning your genome," the tall one said. "We will see if humans are interesting at all." Spoiler, they are not. Bob tried to smile. He didn't know what to say. Most of his life, people had ignored him. Here, these aliens were mocking him before even seeing the results. It was strange, but somehow he felt calm. He had always done his work quietly, without complaint. Maybe this was just another strange task he had to endure. Minutes passed. The aliens chattered in their musical voices, making jokes about what a human might or might not be capable of. "Do you think he has any special genes?" one asked. Perhaps he can breathe fire?" Another laughed, a sound like chimes crashing together. Bob stood on the platform, trying not to fidget. He thought about home, about the small apartment he kept on Earth, about the quiet life he had always led. He was just a janitor, just a human. That was all. And yet, he wondered briefly, what if there was something hidden inside him that even he didn't know? The machine beeped again, and a soft screen lit up above the platform. The aliens leaned in, eyes gleaming with curiosity and mischief. "Almost done," said the tallest one. "Let's see what we have." Bob swallowed. He had no idea what the result would be. The alien seemed confident that it would be nothing. Just another human, simple and ordinary. He tried to shake off a small sense of nervousness. After all, he was just a janitor. There was nothing remarkable about him. The room fell quiet as the machine processed the data. The soft blue mist disappeared, and Bob stepped off the platform. The aliens hovered over the screen, still laughing softly. "Well, human," the tallest one said, "let us see if you are truly ordinary." Bob shrugged. He had no answer. He had spent his life being overlooked, ignored, underestimated. And now, these strange creatures thought it would be funny to test him. He smiled faintly. Maybe he was ordinary. Maybe he was nothing. But he had a feeling, deep inside, that even ordinary humans could surprise the universe in ways no one could imagine. The aliens didn't know it yet, but this simple, quiet human who had spent his life cleaning floors and mopping halls was about to change everything. The aliens stared at the glowing screen, their laughter slowly fading. Bob had stepped back from the platform, unsure what the lights and sounds meant. He mopped the floor nervously, feeling completely out of place among these creatures with their elegant alien forms. "What What is this? One of the younger aliens whispered, voice trembling like wind over glass. The screen flickered and lines of glowing code ran too fast for Bob to read. The aliens leaned closer, their eyes wide, their mouths opening and closing in astonishment. The tallest alien, the one who had mocked Bob before, froze. Its long fingers hovered over the controls. Impossible, it whispered, a word that echoed across the chamber in strange musical tones. Completely impossible. Bob tilted his head. Is something wrong? He asked softly. His voice sounded small in the cavernous room, almost swallowed by the alien murmurs and machine beeps. The alien looked at him, shock written across its face. Human, your DNA. It matches multiple founders. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning Bob didn't understand. Founders? Bob asked. He had heard the aliens mention them before. They were ancient, almost mythical beings who had created many civilizations across galaxies, shaping entire worlds. Legends spoke of their intelligence, their power, their almost godlike abilities. Humans had no role in those stories, or so he had thought. Yes, another alien whispered, its skin shimmering. Every royal database, every historical record we have, it screams, Founder. Your DNA, it carries the markers of all the great ones. You are one of them. Bob blinked, his heart skipping a beat. He had cleaned floors and emptied trash bins all his life. He had never imagined anything like this. I don't understand, he said. I'm just me. The aliens shook their heads, their eyes wide. No, said the tallest alien, voice trembling. You are not just ordinary. You are connected. You are part of everything that came before. How is this possible? Bob swallowed hard. He looked down at his hands. They were small, rough from years of work. How could these hands, these ordinary fingers, hold the same DNA as the beings who built empires across galaxies? He wanted to laugh, to think it was a mistake. But the screen kept flashing, repeating the word over and over, Founder. The aliens backed away, murmuring among themselves. Some touched their heads in disbelief. Others whispered to the machines, trying to double-check, triple-check the results. It cannot be right, one said. Humans are too simple. Their history, their evolution, it is nothing compared to ours. Bob stepped forward slowly. Wait, are you saying? Like, some kind of founder? His voice shook. But I'm just a janitor. I've never done anything important. I clean floors. That's all I do. The room went silent. Even the machines seemed to pause as if holding their breath. Then the tallest alien finally spoke, voice low and shaking. It doesn't matter what you think of yourself. The universe, the records, they do not lie. You carry the blood of those who built everything we know. You are extraordinary. Bob felt dizzy. His whole life had been ordinary, unnoticed, and quiet. Now, in one moment, everything had changed. He was suddenly connected to beings older and greater than he could imagine. He was important. The word repeated in his mind, Founder, Founder, Founder. He looked around at the aliens. Their faces showed fear, awe, and disbelief all at once. You mean I'm, like, one of them? He asked quietly. Yes, the tallest alien said. Its voice was almost reverent. You are a living link to the founders. Every royal database we have studied across the galaxies confirms it. You are the one they never predicted would appear. Bob shook his head. He could barely believe it. A janitor, a simple human holding the DNA of beings who had shaped civilizations. How could this happen? Why him? The questions swirled in his mind, but he had no answers. One of the younger aliens stepped forward. We need to alert the council. We need to tell the rulers. This is historic. Its voice quivered. Every royal and historical database in the galaxy, it will scream this truth. We cannot ignore it. Bob stayed quiet, staring at the glowing screen. He had spent his life cleaning, keeping things simple, unnoticed. And now he was the center of the galaxy's greatest discovery. He had no words, no ideas of what to do next. He felt small, yet something inside him stirred, something powerful, something that told him he could handle this. The aliens, once mocking, now looked at him differently. They whispered among themselves, casting glances at him filled with fear and respect. Bob realized, slowly, that the universe had never seen a human like him before. And neither had he. For the first time in his life, Bob understood that even the smallest, most ordinary person could carry something extraordinary within. And right now, that extraordinary force was about to ripple across the entire galaxy. News of Bob's DNA spread faster than any human could imagine. On the alien research station, Alarms buzzed softly as messages pinged across the galaxy. Every system connected to the Royal Archives, every council chamber, every historian's database lit up with the same word, Founder. The aliens who had once laughed at him now scrambled, sending urgent reports, calling meetings, and debating what to do with the human who carried the DNA of their greatest ancestors. Bob stood in the center of the station's main hall, feeling small and nervous. The corridors that had once been empty now thrummed with activity. Alien officials with long, glimmering limbs moved quickly, some bowing, others whispering. Some of the tallest species he had ever seen paused as they passed him, their multifaceted eyes wide with awe. He felt like a small mouse suddenly placed in the center of a palace. One of the scientists, the one who had first mocked him, approached him cautiously. "Human, they want to see you. The Council of Elders, the rulers, they demand it." Its voice wavered, sounding almost fearful. You carry something no one expected." Bob shook his head. "I don't understand. I'm just me. I clean floors. That's all I do." The alien's skin rippled. "No, that is no longer enough. Your DNA, it is the foundation of our civilizations. The rulers will not allow this to be ignored. They fear what your existence means." Before Bob could respond, a transport ship arrived to take him to the main council planet. It was massive, sleek, and filled with beings from dozens of species, each more intimidating than the last. Bob sat quietly, gripping the edge of his seat, watching as the stars streaked past. He felt dizzy with nerves. He was just a human janitor. He had never imagined anything like this. And yet, the universe had singled him out. When he arrived, the council chamber was enormous. Thousands of beings filled the room, sitting in curved rows of glowing platforms that reached up into the high ceiling. At the front, the elders, the rulers of entire star systems, waited. Their faces, expressions, and voices carried weight that Bob had never experienced. He felt the hum of power in the air, like standing near a star. The tallest elder rose and spoke in a voice that resonated through the chamber. "This human, this simple creature, carries the DNA of our founders. We have confirmed it. Every archive, every record, it screams Founder. Tell us, how is this possible?" Bob blinked, trying to find his voice. I don't know. I just clean. I've never done anything special." His words sounded almost foolish in the chamber, but somehow they were honest. The elders murmured. Some leaned toward each other, exchanging words too fast for Bob to understand. Others tilted their heads, observing him with expressions that were a mix of fear and awe. One elder, with skin that shimmered like molten gold, pointed a long finger at him. "You must understand. Your existence changes everything. Human history, our records, the very structure of our civilizations. They may have underestimated humans all this time." Bob felt a chill. He had never thought of humans as powerful. On Earth, humans were ordinary. People worked, lived, and struggled in quiet ways. But now, thousands of alien rulers were considering him, as extraordinary. A younger alien beside the Golden Elder spoke. "Perhaps, this human is not only a link to the founders. Perhaps humans have potential we never imagined. Perhaps we judged them too quickly." Bob swallowed. He had always tried to do his best in small, quiet ways. Cleaning floors, helping where he could, living honestly. Could it be that something as simple as being human was enough? The elders turned back to him, their glowing eyes fixed. "You will remain under observation," one said. "You will be studied, guided, and protected. You are now central to our understanding of history and power. Your presence will ripple across every system." Bob nodded slowly. His heart pounded. He didn't feel powerful. He felt tired. He wanted to mop floors again, to return to his quiet life. But he also felt a spark, deep inside, a curiosity he had never known. Maybe he could do this. Maybe humans were stronger than anyone thought. Whispers moved through the chamber. Aliens debated what to do next. Some argued for caution, others for celebration. Some wondered if this human could unite civilizations that had long been divided. The word Founder echoed in their minds again and again. Bob felt it too, a strange hum of destiny, like the universe had chosen him for something bigger. When the meeting ended, Bob was escorted to a small chamber where he could rest. Outside, the galaxy buzzed with news. Ships changed course, messages traveled faster than light, and leaders who had ruled for centuries trembled at the thought of a simple human holding the key to ancient legacies. Bob sat on a simple chair, exhausted and bewildered. He had never wanted attention. He had never wanted power. But now the galaxy had given him both. And deep inside he realized that humans, ordinary humans, might be capable of far more than anyone, even the founders themselves, had ever imagined. Bob woke early in the small chamber the aliens had given him. He stretched and rubbed his eyes, still trying to process everything. In just a few days, he had gone from being a janitor on Earth to being the center of the galaxy's attention. The word founder followed him everywhere. Messages pinged across the station, and aliens who had once laughed at him now spoke in hushed, respectful tones whenever he passed. Despite all the grandeur and attention, Bob felt the same as always. He still liked cleaning, fixing small problems, and helping quietly wherever he could. Yet, he began to notice something strange. The aliens, for all their intelligence, often struggled with problems that seemed simple to him. Systems broke down, protocols failed, and complex machines jammed over the tiniest errors. One day, the tall alien scientist who had first tested him came rushing into Bob's room, panic in its voice. "Human, we have a problem. The energy grid on the outer platforms is failing. If it collapses, the entire station could be damaged." Bob frowned. "Energy grid, failing? Can you show me?" The alien led him to a holographic console, projecting a glowing map of the station. Red lines blinked across the platform, warning of critical failures. The aliens were panicking, their voices rising, their limbs shaking. Bob looked at the complex network and squinted. "Here," he said, pointing to a junction in the hologram. "That valve is sending too much power here and it's overloading the system. If you divert some energy and adjust this limiter, it will balance out." The alien froze. "But that requires manual calibration. The probability of error is too high." Bob shrugged. "I've fixed worse on Earth. Just show me the controls." Minutes later, Bob's hands were moving across the alien console. His small human fingers pressed buttons, twisted levers, and adjusted dials. The glowing map slowly shifted, the red lines fading as power flowed correctly through the grid. Aliens gasped and murmured. Systems stabilized, alarms stopped, and the station hummed evenly again. The tallest alien, who had once mocked him, approached with wide eyes. "Human, that was perfect. How did you know?" Bob shrugged again. "I've fixed machines before. Doesn't matter what species they belong to. If it works, it works." Word of his skill spread quickly. Bob found himself summoned to meetings where alien rulers debated over crises. Systems failing, experiments going wrong, disputes between civilizations. Bob could solve them all, not with power, not with authority, but with simple logic, patience, and clever thinking. The aliens began to realize something shocking. Humans were not just physically weaker than many species. They were adaptable, resourceful, quick to understand problems and find solutions where others failed. What looked ordinary at first glance turned out to be extraordinary. One council meeting was called to discuss a conflict between two alien worlds. The two species had been at war for centuries, and neither side trusted the other. Plans to mediate had failed repeatedly. Bob listened quietly as the rulers argued. Then he spoke. "Why don't we try it this way?" he said, explaining a simple compromise, something that no alien diplomat had suggested because it seemed too basic. Within hours, the conflict ended peacefully. The council was stunned. A human janitor had solved what generations of rulers could not. Another day, an experimental machine that could create energy fields collapsed mid-trial. Aliens panicked. Bob approached the controls and, using only logic and careful observation, adjusted a few circuits. The machine powered up again, perfectly stable. Cheers erupted. Aliens stared at him as if he were magic. Bob realized that this was what humans were good at: adapting, solving problems with creativity, and acting calmly when others panicked. While aliens relied on history, protocol, and rules, humans relied on quick thinking and intuition. That was his advantage. That was what made him valuable and dangerous in a way to those who had underestimated humanity. Over time, Bob grew more confident. He still cleaned floors when he could, still kept things orderly, but he also learned to navigate alien politics, solve disputes, and guide civilizations quietly. The elders came to rely on him not because he demanded power, but because he simply got things done. At night, Bob sat alone thinking about Earth. He missed his simple life but understood something profound. Humans had been underestimated for too long. Even someone as small and ordinary as a janitor could influence the galaxy in ways no one imagined. He smiled quietly. Maybe humans were not just survivors. Maybe they were builders, problem solvers, founders in their own way. And maybe, just maybe, the universe had been waiting for someone like him all along. The word founder no longer felt like a joke. It felt like a promise, a reminder that ordinary humans could accomplish extraordinary things. And Bob, the quiet janitor from Earth, had only just begun. The news had spread across the galaxy. Every alien civilization, every royal house, every historian and scholar knew about Bob, the human janitor. The word founder appeared in their records like a warning and a marvel all at once. Ships changed course to see him. Councils delayed decisions just to hear his advice. And yet, Bob remained quietly himself, modest, careful, and still drawn to the simple tasks he had always loved. The elders called a grand assembly, the most important gathering in galactic history. Every ruler, every scholar, every representative of advanced civilizations crowded the chamber. It was enormous, with platforms that glowed like stars, ceilings that seemed to stretch into infinity, and walls that shimmered with the history of thousands of worlds. Bob was led to the center, the glowing floor beneath him lighting up with every step. The tallest elder, who had once mocked him, stood before the assembly. Its many eyes gleamed as it spoke. Beings of the galaxy, we have discovered something unprecedented. This human, this simple creature, carries the DNA of our founders. He is a living connection to our past, a bridge to our history, and a reminder that greatness can come in the most unexpected forms. Whispers and murmurs swept through the crowd. Some aliens shook their heads in disbelief. Others bowed, their faces filled with awe. Bob felt nervous, unsure how to respond. He was just a janitor. He had mopped floors and cleaned halls, never imagining he would be at the center of history. One of the elders stepped forward, its voice calm and powerful. Human Bob, we formally recognize you as the descendant of the founders. Your existence proves what many of us doubted, that even species we consider primitive can carry the legacy of creation. You are extraordinary not because of power or ambition, but because of who you are. Bob's hands trembled slightly. He had never wanted fame. He had never wanted to lead or rule. All he had ever wanted was to do his job well, quietly, without drawing attention. And now, the galaxy was telling him he was more than that. He took a deep breath and said softly, I'm just a human. I've never done anything amazing on my own. I just try to help when I can. The elders looked at him carefully. One golden-skinned elder smiled, a warm, gentle expression that seemed to light up the room. Exactly. That is what makes you remarkable. Your humility, your willingness to act, your creativity, your courage, all these traits show the strength of your kind. Humans may appear small and fragile, but they are founders in their own way. Bob felt a strange warmth in his chest. For the first time he realized that humans, the species he had once thought so ordinary, were capable of more than anyone, alien or human, had imagined. They could survive, adapt, and create in ways that shook entire civilizations. The assembly ended with a ceremonial acknowledgement. Bob was given a small medallion, engraved with the symbol of the founders, glowing softly. The aliens bowed to him, not as a ruler, not as a conqueror, but as a living link to greatness. Bob accepted it quietly, unsure how he deserved it, yet feeling proud in a way he had never known. After the ceremony, Bob returned to his chamber. The galaxy was still buzzing with news, but he found peace in the small things. He cleaned the floors, fixed small machines, and helped wherever he could. The aliens watched him, some fascinated, some still unsure how a human could wield such influence with such simplicity. Bob realized that being recognized did not mean changing who he was. He did not need to command fleets, rewrite laws, or dominate worlds. His greatness lay in his ordinary human qualities, his patience, his cleverness, his courage, and his humility. That was enough to shake the galaxy. That was enough to prove that humans, even the most unassuming, could be extraordinary. And in the quiet moments, when the stars outside the station shone and the aliens whispered about the founder human, Bob smiled. He thought of Earth, of small chores, of quiet nights. He had never sought glory, and yet, he had become a symbol of it. The galaxy had learned that it could not underestimate humans. Bob knew that the adventure was only beginning. He did not need to change who he was to be extraordinary. He simply needed to be himself, a janitor, a problem solver, a human. And that was enough to leave the galaxy in awe. As he polished the floor one last time that evening, Bob whispered to himself, almost laughing, I guess humans really are something else. And somewhere in the archives of every civilization, in glowing letters across screens and crystal tablets, the word remained, founder. Bob, the humble human janitor, had become the living proof that greatness often comes in quiet, unassuming forms, and that even the smallest person could leave a mark across the stars.